You have discovered how easy it is to create a pivot table using one of the suggestions under the recommended pivot tables. In this segment, I'm going to show you my personal preferred method that I use to create and customize pivot tables to meet my specific needs. And secondly, I will explain to you the layout that you're about to see so that you understand and you can apply these effectively when you create your own pivot tables. So let's jump into it. All you need to do is to ensure that your cursor is placed anywhere in the table that you have created, and then hit the Insert tab and select the Pivot Table option. And you can see that Excel has cleverly referenced the table that we have already created. This is great because any updates that are made to this data set can be easily refreshed in the pivot charts or tables that you're creating later on. And you may place your new pivot table in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. I personally prefer to put it in a new worksheet as I find it neater. Let's hit OK. And once you do that, a new pivot worksheet is created. And let me acquaint you now with the fields that you see here. Okay, and on the left here, we have the fields. If you look closely, these were actually the column headers that we created earlier. So it's very important to ensure that you have column headers in your table previously. On the right here are referred to as areas, right? I will explain how these two comes together later on as we build our pivot table. At the top here, this is a very important tool that you can use to arrange the view that you prefer. So for me, I personally prefer the view like this, where the fields are on the left and the areas are on the right. But if you prefer a view like this, where the fields are at the top and the areas are at the bottom, you may select that option. And if you just want to see the fields, this is the option. And if you just want to see the areas in this format, this is how it would look like. Or if you want the areas to be in this format, all right, that's the other thing that you can do. So I'll return to the view that I prefer. At the bottom here, you would see a deferred layout update. If you check this, what this would do is it would delay the updates to the pivot table until you hit this update. This is useful if you have very large data sets because at the back end, Excel is making all these huge calculations as you make these changes, and this may slow the system down. So in our example, our data set is pretty small, so I would uncheck this because I don't need that. The other thing that you would have noticed me doing is I can enlarge or I can adjust the size of my view here. So let me just pull it down a little bit. At this juncture, I would highly recommend that you practice the steps that you have seen to create pivot tables. And I will see you in the next segment where we will actually get down to building and customizing the pivot tables that we require.